Keir Starmer's leadership of the Labour Party apparently will live to fight another day, because for those of you that haven't heard, Labour have held the seat of Batley and Spen. They have won the Batley and Spen by-election. Their vote share was significantly reduced. It's the lowest their vote share has been there for a very, very long time. Certainly much lower than it was in 2019, in 2017, in 2015, and I believe 2010 as well. So, you know, it's certainly something that, you know, Labour shouldn't be, you know, resting on their laurels and thinking, oh, yeah, well, you know, we're sorted, you know, we're electable finally. Whatever that, you know, really means in their minds. Because this should have been easy for Labour. This should have been a very, very easily winnable seat. Let's be clear about that. So, just going to kind of talk about that, what that win means and why I think it happened, what the results are, and kind of, you know, generally the impact this will have on the Labour Party in general. So a really interesting point that a lot of people have made about this by-election is that Muslim voters in Batley and Spen have essentially shifted away from the party in quite a significant way, and lots of them lent their support to George Galloway. Now, George Galloway is a liar. He's voted for the Tories. He is, you know, he's chummy and has campaigned alongside Nigel Farage. You know, he's very fine with xenophobia, and perhaps worst of all, he denies the acts of the Chinese government against the Uyghur population in Xinjiang. He denies that there's a genocide there. He denies that there's exploitation, that there's persecution, that there's, you know, that there's a kind of, you know, ethnic cleansing and things. When it's obviously something that is happening, and it's, you know, the worst incidents of ethnic cleansing since the Holocaust. So it's really, you know, he's really a very unsavoury character. But he was speaking out about Palestine and Kashmir, and that, of course, was resonating with a lot of Muslim voters. And he got a substantial amount of the vote. So that was something that was worrying a lot of people for Labour. But it looks like, due to the fact that Galloway's campaign was having some allegations of you know, political intimidation, and the fact that people on the campaign trail had been assaulted and abused from Kim Leadbeater's side, the Labour candidate. The fact that she was, you know, accosted and spoken to in a very harsh and very unsavoury way by a gentleman who was very anti-LGBTQ+. You know, I think people start to realise, okay, look, she may not be perfect and the Labour Party is not in a very good place right now, but, you know, we can't, you know, we need to unify around this kind of campaign of hope. And I think Kim will be a good MP, and I think, unfortunately, you know, she was kind of strangleholded a little bit. She was held back from actually speaking her mind and giving out policy proposals. And the things she supported on a national level, I think she just kind of wasn't allowed to do that because of the national kind of influence on the campaign. But there was lots of amazing campaigners. You know, Labour worked really hard, but the Tories were only very, you know, very slimly behind. I don't even know if that makes sense, but you know what I mean. The Tories, I think it was about 323 votes short of Labour's vote total. So this is not something to celebrate too much, right? We should be very happy that Labour won Batley and Spen. I'm happy that Labour won Batley and Spen. I am, but they should have easily won that. They should have won that with over 50% of the vote, like they did in 2017, right? Whereas in this election, they got about 35% of the vote. That's 20% less than in Jeremy Corbyn's first general election, when everyone was saying he was unelectable and Labour was going to lose terribly and everything was going to be horrible. And of course, Labour didn't win that election, but nobody won the election. It was a hung parliament, and Labour seemed primed to take power to win power, I should say. Take sounds like a coup. To win power within the next few years after that, they made historic gains. It was really quite a formidable campaign. If you're saying that guy and his team weren't electable, and I admit the 2019 election result was awful, and the way Brexit was handled on every side of the party was terrible, after like 2018. But if you're saying he was unelectable, and you should be smashing that seat. You should be winning it easily. But that was a very narrow victory. So I think we have to very much take stock of that. And secondly, I want to talk about how I think this is an opportunity for the Labour Party. So a lot of people are saying now that Labour is... A lot of people on the Labour right, I think, are saying, oh, we created this new electoral coalition in like 6 weeks, and all the Muslims left us because they supported Palestine and they hate gay people, but we still managed to win with ex-Tory voters from 2019. And that doesn't really check out much, because it was Labour's... It was a lower share of the vote than Labour had in 2019. So if Labour had actually rebuilt that electoral coalition, you would expect it to be at least the same, right? And also it's deeply offensive towards the many, many Muslims in Batley and Spen and all around the country who really are very, very tolerant, very decent human beings who don't care if you're gay or if you're trans or if you're bisexual or whatever. You know, they're fully supportive of the LGBTQ plus community. And, you know, Owen Jones did a lot of reporting around there, did a lot of really good stuff on the by-election, and he said, you know, it was very, very rare that anyone would talk to him about LGBTQ plus issues, and that was why they weren't voting Labour and they were voting for George Galloway. Very, very few. Most of the time it was about Palestine and Kashmir. And Labour's foreign policy has been pretty naff, right? I think that's fair to say. On Palestine, Starmer was very meek. But that was very insulting, and this is not some grand victory. Labour has a tiny injection of momentum now. They have to use it effectively, because Starmer's leadership was dead in the water, and it will be very soon, unless he uses this as an opportunity to essentially relaunch his leadership. He needs to, and what's very clear, and there's been lots of rumours around Westminster about this, what's very clear is that the Labour right, the right of the Labour Party, I'm talking like people like Peter Mandelson and stuff, they don't actually think Starmer can win an election, right? They don't think he can. They think he's a dud. They think he's hopeless. They think he's not charismatic enough. They just want Tony Blair, right? They want Tony Blair because they love him so much, and, you know, oh, if you just forget about Iraq... Just forget about, you know, 500,000 people dying. I'm not sure that's something you should do in politics. But, you know, they don't think he's going to win. So they essentially want to use him to change the way that the leader of the party is elected, so that it's easier for them to win and the membership don't have as much of a say and the unions don't have as much of a say. And then they get rid of him and they elect someone like, Wes Streeting or Rachel Reeves, or, I don't know, maybe... Tony Blair again? I don't know. Because I don't think Andy Burnham would be particularly interested in working with them. I don't think Angela Rayner would be particularly interested in working with them. Obviously Rebecca Long-Bailey wouldn't be interested in that. Lisa Nandy perhaps is the candidate, but she's a bit of a wild card, Lisa Nandy, because sometimes she does support some pretty good progressive policies. So I'm not sure. But that's quite clear, and so what Starmer needs to do is get them out of the way, right? He needs to have a shadow cabinet and a team around him who actually know what they're doing and want him to win and have a policy vision for the country. Coherent, where they can kind of knit together all these different ideas from different parts of the party, you know? That needs to be something that he does right away, and he needs to start proposing, you know, actual concrete policies. And he already had some of that. He already had the groundwork for that in his 10 pledges that he made during the leadership campaign, which were really good, right? I really really thought they were all very good. Some of them were to do with the party itself, and some of them were to do with national politics. Both of those should be implemented, right? None of them have been really, right? Especially not the ones that were about what he would do in government and what he would fight for in opposition. He hasn't made a peep, right? In fact, he doesn't even support the tax rises. He actually opposed the government tax rises on the ultra-wealthy and giant corporations, which is just ridiculous that Labour was to the right of the Tories on tax. Just ridiculous. So if he starts surrounding himself with people who actually want him to win, people who understand how politics works in the 2020s, not in the 1990s, then I think he could win. And I think he could turn his leadership around. But will he? I don't think so. I don't think so. This is just a tiny, tiny window where Labour can utilise this momentum. It's going to be gone very soon. So let's hope they unify around an actual decent, concrete, bread and butter, progressive vision for the country, and Starmer actually gets his act together and starts proposing real policies and confronting the government, holding them to account properly with people who know how to run a sleek campaign to make Labour electable again. Let's hope. But at least Batley and Spen have got Kim Leadbeater, who I'm sure will be a fantastic representative for them. She's a local candidate and a relative of Jo Cox, and I think she'll be fantastic. So that is at least one nice little ray of sunshine in all the darkness at the moment. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed the video, if you liked it, then why not translate that into a digital form and click the like button. Or, even better, if you're feeling extra wild, subscribe and click the bell.